Hi there. Welcome to A Course in Miracles for Your Everyday Life. I'm Heidi, and I'm a new student to A Course in Miracles. And
And I'm Patricia, and I'm a longtime student of A Course in Miracles, over 25 years, and I am excited any opportunity to teach A Course in Miracles and inspire others to really dive right in.
love it. 25 years, that's a long time. And I'm fresh. So I'm probably just I'd like to say I'm about a year because you really inspired me.
Mm.
But in terms of self-study, I would say I'm only about a month or two in. And today we're going to be discussing chapter 14 called The Happy Learner, which I
Mm.
have yet to read, but it seems to be a chapter relevant to something that I myself have experienced, perhaps even you, and I think many people who might watch, in terms of family systems, when the system of your family, potentially related to religion or just simply the way your family operated, um, when you made mistakes or when you made, uh, I'm just going to call it a mistake. Um, and there's a certain response from family, which could be silence, which could be isolation, and which could be punishment.
Mm.
Um, I'll speak specifically from my own experience when I do something in my family that is a mistake. For example, share information with one sister that another sister didn't want me to share, and it was truly a mistake of misspeak, if you will,
Mhm.
or love or call for love, as Patricia is teaching me, and that costs me with them. And the cost is silence, punishment, isolation. So I guess the silence and the isolation is the punishment.
Mhm.
And so as a new learner, I was thinking, all right, well, I've got to work on forgiveness of myself and forgiving them. And through forgiveness, finding my way to love.
Mm.
Is that kind of
It's
the
so beautiful. It's so beautiful. And you actually stumbled on a major theme of the course just in your unfoldment and just being with this situation in your own life, because the viewing that the course has about sin and it could, of any degree of order really is that it's a mistake. It's a mistake, and it's very, very, rooted in that idea of it's a call for love. It's a call for love, for self-forgiveness. It's a call for love, forgiveness of the situation itself, forgiveness at times of God for putting us in these situations, or, we have all these other things that are active in us. And, as we get into some of the themes in chapter 14, I would love to start us off with this prayer. This is one of my favorites, and I try to remember to say this prayer internally as much as I can. I have a shortcut for it, but I'll say the prayer and then I'll tell you my shortcut for it as well. The prayer it's in chapter 2 of the course, and I call it the truly helpful prayer. I am here only to be truly helpful. I am here to represent him who sent me. I do not have to worry about what to say or what to do because he who sent me will direct me. I am content to be wherever he wishes, knowing he goes there with me. I will be healed as I let him teach me to heal. And my shortcut for that one is decide for me. That's another line in the course. Holy Spirit,
oh,
decide for me. Right? Because sometimes when I'm not in my right mind, I have decided actually to align with something other than Holy Spirit. So in a moment, if I just am a shortcut, decide for me, and I give it all over to Holy Spirit. And I'll just say one thing about the languaging of that prayer. And throughout the course, this is triggering to a lot of people. You'll notice if you open the book, you'll notice that there is very masculine languaging. So it's God the Father, Holy Spirit is a he. Jesus is this reference through the course is he, and the Son of God. There's no mention of a daughter of God. It's this very gendered language toward the masculine. And one time when I was teaching a class, I brought this inquiry to Holy Spirit because I knew I hadn't really exactly tracked how it got dissolved in me specifically, but I brought this question in earnest into meditation to Holy Spirit. And I said, how can I present this to people so that they're not triggered? Because I know it's triggering for a lot of people. Some people even say, oh, I picked up A Course in Miracles, but I couldn't deal with the language. Or I'd read the Course in Miracles, but I changed the language in my head so as to not trigger myself. And Holy Spirit was very clear in the answer. And I was told the languaging of A Course in Miracles is intentional in its triggering. And the whole point of A Course in Miracles is to unravel all of our triggers
Oh,
the root. So it said, the triggers would be if someone takes the Course in Miracles to heart, it would be an invitation to go into deep into those triggers and heal whatever is in it for you. People have issues with the patriarchy or with men in general or whatever it is, to heal that at the deepest possible layers. And then as that's done, this is what Holy Spirit showed me. It was like, then the feminine wisdom tradition gets unleashed because in my experience, the Course in Miracles is a feminine wisdom tradition. It invites us to go into the darkness, meaning into our own pain, uh, without knowing for sure that we'll come out on the other side. And that is feminine in nature, right? But the Course guarantees you're going to come out on the other side as you go into your own darkness. And really the light will be there.
kind of makes me think of pregnancy in some degree, sort of like, that going within,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
waking up.
And this is what you're doing in the situation with this sin, right? Not sin, mistake. Uh um and you are going into the darkness of, wow, there's a lesson in the course like I don't know what this is for. You go, I don't know what this is for, but one thing it's not for is taking yourself to the court of law and finding out that you're guilty. That's not what it's for. I can guarantee that's not what it's for.
It, as I've begun reading it, there's a section, I'm not sure which part, but it's something about the grievances or the things that might be bothersome to me. They're neither big nor small. They're all
Oh,
equally
yeah.
jarring, if you will. So, even to qualify something as this was massive, or oh, it was just a small thing. It's all equally.
It's
Uh,
so true. And that's a beautiful, I don't know, soothing balm in a way from the course is the course says even just like the slightest little irritation, just like a little raised eyebrow, might as well be seething rage because as we get into it, we find, oh yeah, the rage is there. It's just it maybe it's been cleaned up and has a presentable, we think it's presentable
oh my
viewing. But
God.
it all stems from the core of it is there's no order of difficulty to miracles either. Sometimes we think, oh, I got a little miracle. Great. It's the same as a big miracle. And um, the Course defines a miracle. Actually, there's different layers of it, I think, but it's really a shift in awareness. And the shift in awareness, that the Course is asking us to do is to let miracles replace all grievances. Big, small, it doesn't matter. It's like every single grievance in our life. And chapter 14, by the way, the title of chapter 14 is Teaching for Truth. There's a section in chapter 14 that is the happy learner we're going to talk about. But there's so many themes in chapter 14, and I was guided to read chapter 14. I prayed to Holy Spirit before I was going to Course in Miracles monastery in Utah. That was David Hoffmeister's monastery. I was going for a couple months stay, and I prayed to Holy Spirit, what can I do to set myself up for this? And I heard clear as could be, chapter 14. So I said, ooh, I'm going in. And I had read it before, but I read it with new eyes, really trusting that there was something there. And one of it talks a lot about the conditions of learning. And one of the and there's a part in there too about the decision for guiltlessness. They're like, we can make that decision for guiltlessness. So
Oh,
it really ties into what we um, were talking
wow.
about, in just before this call, we had a little chat and this idea that we could decide that we're not guilty. That's why I said, I know for sure this didn't happen in your life or anytime, an uncomfortable thing happens in our lives. It did not happen for us to decide that we're guilty. That is actually something that I stand on solid ground believing. And so the happy learner
And the
that,
course teaches that, right? I mean, the course is teaching not to be that you're not guilty, no matter. Again, I'll go back to like the big or the small, because another theme that's been running in my awareness this week is the drowning of a child. And
hmm,
so some videos have been coming up on my feed of mother sharing the story of how their child died, and it could have been like in the blink of an eye when
hmm,
they weren't looking or they weren't watching. And specifically related to a drowning. And I
hmm.
thought, when you think about carrying guilt, um so how does the course how does the course teach this? Because I think depending on the family you grew up in, depending on where you are in your journey of life, guilt can come from something like, yeah, speaking out about another sister. Okay.
Mhm, mhm,
So, how I feel the guilt versus somebody who may have done something similarly in their own family to their own sister, how they
mhm,
experience guilt. Or, you know, it's hard not to think it's so great, but your child dying
mhm,
while
mhm,
you're the the watcher.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, and one thing I really want to drive home about the course, because there have been many people along the way in all sorts of spirituality who do this kind of um, diminishing of human pain, like, oh, everything happens for a reason, or yeah, right, like there's a way that humans can really move out of presence when there is a tragedy in life, right? And we are all conditioned, I think, to recognize when something is tragic, it pulls at us, right? And we want to find a way to make sense of it. So that's where I think a lot of these kinds of, I don't know, pat phrases or something will come in when someone has true suffering, right? Um, but what happens as we become a happy learner, it's a really curious thing, right? That yeah, we find that even some of the smaller things to be upset about in life, as we go into them, we will find, just like I said, the little raised eyebrow that's irritated, right, can be seething rage underneath. So the little bit of, sometimes it's not a little bit of guilt that comes to mind. Sometimes guilt is like, wow, I was wrong. I did wrong. I think should stop talking to me. Or, we can have these kinds of ideas of really going
I
along.
deserve
Yeah, I
this.
deserve
I
it. I deserve,
deserve.
they're totally, I really messed it up. And I deserve every bit of punishment, right? And so the real opportunity is for us to recognize, and this is what the Course teaches, and this was a radical idea for me because, and I don't even know really in the beginning that if I believed it. The Course teaches that guilt is at the core of every human experience, a massive core of guilt. And that's kind of what we're here for, is to deny the guilt that's there and just distract ourselves in a way. So if those of us who have experiences of like, yes, I'm guilty, I'm guilty, in a way we're closer to the truth than people go, I'm not guilty of anything. So the guilt that's at the core, we do want to see. And we do
Okay.
want to allow up to the surface. And we do want to be, as the Course teaches, a happy learner by those situations that come into our experience. The Course, I'm not going to get this quote right, but the Course says something along the lines of, like, could you trust if you knew beyond the shadow of any doubt that everything that was basically delivered up on your plate of your everyday life is gently planned by someone who has so much love for you, Holy Spirit, right? That none of this is at random. Your passage, this is another line in the Course, your passage through time and space is not at random. So nothing that happens to us is at random. And
Oh,
and if
wow.
we can trust that, and if we can grant ourselves the permission to be a happy learner, knowing that nothing is coming into your experiential reality at random. All of it is coming for your healing of that, ultimately, that guilt that's in there. And the Course divides the expressions in our lives into two very clear categories. There's multiple, but it's all boils down to the same thing. There's love
Uh,
or fear. All right, we could say love or a call for love. The fear could be just a call for love. We could call it um, spirit, which is our true essence, or the ego, which is the Course
there
uses
you
ego
go.
in a little bit of a different way than the psychological definition of ego. But the Course is saying ego is really the false self. It's the construct of self that is not aware of its oneness with source.
And
So
isn't it one who says, "Oh, you deserve it. You deserve it to you deserve that your sisters aren't talking to you, or you deserve, let's say, the hate on social media, or the like, the finger pointing from people."
right,
That's the ego.
that's the ego.
Spirit would say something like what? What would spirit say when?
There's there's something here for me to heal. There's something for me to learn. There's something for me to acknowledge. There's something to come up that needs attention. There's something from the past that is playing out over and over and over again, which is actually one of the things the Course teaches as well. The Course teaches, like, I see only the past, right? And so as we are reliving, in a way, the past, ultimately there comes the light where we say, there must be another way to look at this, right? There must be another way to look at this. And the other way in this case is like, I'm not guilty. Um, there's something here for all parties to receive as a gift.
And, and so, with A Course in Miracles, I think we've talked a little bit about this outside of what we're sharing today. So, A Course in Miracles is is like a mind system or a thought system. It's a way
Yes,
to it is the everyday system of life, because every day we're here, right? We're here living and dealing with someone beeping their horn in traffic, or maybe mistreating me at the grocery store, or my kid is sass mouth, you know, speaking to me in a certain way, and I'm like, I don't want to, or like a husband or a loved one is right. So it's my mind that has to be saying what spirit wants me to hear. There's something here for me.
Yes, and that's a beautiful, simple way to think about it. And also, there's this section in the course about responsibility for sight, that what shows up in our viewing, arena is actually something that we are involved in.
Oh,
It's, that I am responsible for what I see. So
I,
as we heal, I am
oh,
responsible. Ooh. And it's also beautiful. And coming back to chapter 14, there's one of the other things. There was a couple of, for me, zingers of beautiful, beautiful prayers in chapter 14. So as I spent time with that chapter before going to the monastery, one of the prayers that I loved, and I made a little book about it. I'll show it to you one of these days. But I wrote on the back of the book this prayer, and I'll read this prayer. It's so beautiful. And I'll tell you my interpretation of it, which ties into what we were just talking about. He leadeth me and knows the way, which I know not. Yet he will never keep from me what he would have me learn. And so I trust him to communicate to me all that he knows for me. And so the meaning was, and that is also that everything is gently planned for me. Even if I have a blind spot, doesn't matter. Like Holy Spirit will bring the life circumstances so that we clean the little glasses on our lenses, and right, the windshield wipers. And so can we trust him, Holy Spirit, to communicate to us all that he knows for us? And it's such a leap of faith to really trust that we could have that kind of communication with Holy Spirit. The Course talks about communication with the Holy Spirit can be unambiguous and plain as day. When I first read that in the Course, I was like, sign me up. Unambiguous and plain as day, communication with that wisest part of myself.
which
Yes,
is Holy Spirit.
Holy Spirit
And the Holy Spirit only speaks from love,
only.
right? Yeah.
Only. And often the way it looks like on this plane of existence in our everyday lives is it often very much looks like healing. Healing our mind and healing our heart, really. Healing through that journey of allowing the emotional um, hmm, residue from us living the school of hard knocks. Really, every single one of us cannot escape that. That's what we go through as children, and we have quite a many misses along the way. So the Course does invite us to trust that as we do heal from all of that, that the light will return into our awareness as a consistent um, awareness. And as we're healing, a lot of us, we have moments when we're connected to the light, and then we go into the darkness. And the Course calls this going into our right mind or our wrong mind. And that's a split mind when we're just flip-flopping. A good thing happens, we're like, oh, I feel great, I'm in my right mind. Well, if it's conditional on good things happening, it's probably not your right mind. It's probably a little bit more ego reinforcement. But ultimately, the Course does guarantee that we will find our way toward really that true essence of who we are, which is an eternal light that cannot go away.
Eternal light. Love that.
Mhm.
All right, so chapter 14.
Yeah, it'd be a great one if
That
there's different entry points for everybody. If you're new to the course, some people start with the lesson a day for 365 days. Some people start with the manual for teachers, which is at the end of the book. And some people, when I first picked up the course, I couldn't yet sort of jump into the text. It's like a textbook. I just didn't have that understanding yet of the languaging of the course. But if anybody out there is up for it, yeah, I think it'd be great to just take a peek into chapter 14 and especially that section about being a happy learner. Let yourself be a happy learner when life brings a challenging situation into.
I'm going to be reading chapter 14, and for me, I've been kind of bouncing around the book, and I get messages from Spirit, I
Mhm.
feel, and which direct me to certain chapters. So this will be a chapter
Mhm.
I'll be digging into.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. It's filled with gems, as is
The
every
whole,
chapter in the course,
the
really.
whole, the whole, the whole book.
It feels like this is my second book itself, but I just keep like going around and around and through and through and through. And I think that this is a work that is somewhat encoded because different wisdom gems will get revealed to me, as I reread a section that I've read many times before, all of a sudden, boom, something I never really saw or considered before is right there in plain sight.
So, do you feel like the course is kind of like an elevation, or like the lights are turning up? Like sort
It's
of.
just our awareness that the light has always been there. And when we are not in the awareness that the light is there, it can be very dark. And the expressions of like the the pain of being separate from source can get very dramatic on this plane. And
Yeah.
we never want to lose compassion for how that is for people living that reality because it is brutal. It's seemingly, the course teaches also that this whole thing is an illusion. But like I said, we never want to really do that spiritual bypass over how loud and brutal the expressions of our of being separate from source in our mind. The course teaches we are not separate from source, but it is an awareness that returns to us. It becomes more and more a remembrance of the truth. So remembering becomes more and more important as we continue to study the course. Just remembering that we are at one with our source, with the
Remember
light.
that we are one with our source, with the light.
Hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
I think that's a good place for us to stop for today.
Oh, what a treat to come together and discuss the course. Such a true love of mine. And thank you for taking this time to get us chatting.
And thank you for
Mhm.
hearing me and guiding me as I'm new.
Hmm.
All
And
right.
your best guide, of course, is your own relationship with your own inner teacher or inner guide, Holy Spirit in you. And so, yeah, this is where we all start, is inspiring each other.
All right. Okay.
All
Thank-
right.
All right.
Bye-bye.